Hey, how's it going? Today I'm going to be talking about SMED and what that is. SMED stands for Single Minute Exchange of Die, and it's a lean manufacturing technique used to reduce the time it takes to change over manufacturing process from producing one product to another. The goal of SMED is to minimize or eliminate downtime associated with changeovers, allowing company to be more flexible and responsive to customer demands. Uh, when I was doing qualifications with regard to SMED and understanding its principles, that would be we had the chance to take a look at the video that you can find online as well. That was a video of race cars and how much time they used to spend instead of racing in service area where they would need to undergo exchange of tires or refill of fuel or anything like that. That time in the video, I think it was 1960s up to 2000s or so, and how much time it used to take and how much time it takes now. I would highly recommend for anyone who is interested to understand it better to take a look at that video and example of changes that they made. But it had changed dramatically in terms of how much time it would be required for cars to spend in service area instead of driving. That's the gist of it. That's what this principle is. Instead of your equipment being in use and actually generating you money, being and overall something that we call downtime, where we cannot do anything with that equipment, whatever that might be, exchange of tool, equipment, perhaps some parts of it. Either way, the equipment that you have, it should be put into use 24/7. Basically, that's the gist of it. Here are some key principles and concepts associated with SMED. Internal against external setups. SMED categorizes setup activities into two types, internal and external. Internal setups activities are those that can only be performed when the equipment is not running, while external setup activities can be conducted while the equipment is still running. They aim to convert as many internal setups activities into external ones that perhaps having if would be required any tools if possible have those tools ready before that equipment whatever is producing any of the goods perhaps is still running, get everything in line ready to perform whatever that might be, exchanging tires, whatever, just following the same analogy. So once the machine is to switch off, you can do that straight away with the least amount of time wasted. Standardization, we were using some of the principles, perhaps worth mentioning. We were using 5S. I'll touch on that later. Standardization setup, procedures, and creating detailed setups, introductions helps reduce various variations and errors during changeover. Ideally, you would like to perform some of the task all the time exactly the same. That would minimize this, not necessarily it's interesting thing to do, but that minimizes errors and unnecessary time wasted. Parallelization, in some cases, it's impossible to perform setup activities in parallel with production, further reducing changeover times. Setup reduction teams. Cross-functional teams are often formed to analyze and improve setup processes. These teams may include operators, maintenance personnel, engineers, and other relevant stakeholders. Continuous improvement. SMED is an ongoing process that requires continuous improvement efforts to identify and eliminate ineffectiveness in a setup process. The ultimate goal of SMED is to reduce setup times to the point where they can be accomplished in less than 10 minutes. perhaps even less than that, or even a single minute. Here you go, hence the term single minute exchange of die. By implementing SMED principles, companies can increase production flexibility, reduce waste, and respond more quickly to exchange in customer demand. It depends on what kind of equipment you do have for your company. Perhaps these principles can be used for larger companies who have very expensive equipment, and downtimes or machines not working times can be very expensive for those companies. Then perhaps companies would be interested in optimizing their processes and perhaps looking for ways to improve current systems and how they can maximize the time of machines operating and working and minimize downtime where machines are not operating. For those of you who are interested in learning more, I would highly recommend purchasing my book. The name of the good book is Game Strategy. In the book, I'm sharing a lot of methods, systems, way how you can optimize your business. If you are doing research of what would be required for you to launch your business, if you currently have launched your business, or perhaps you have existing business that you had been having for some time, perhaps 5, 10, or even longer. Perhaps if you are an investor, you would find something for you to learn in this book of some of the principles, current industry principles. I would highly recommend for everyone who is interested in learning more, purchasing this book and see my personal predictions of what the future can bring. You can find this book in the description under this video as well as the top retailers. Thank you. If I had to put everything in perspective, if I would go with a perhaps similar example, that would be Formula One racing cars and how teams should prepare for those cars to be serviced during the race. If I were to take a look at some of the principles of SMED, which can be applied to Formula One racing cars during pit stops and setup changes, I would be looking at some of the key areas. That would be 6 areas. I would begin by categorizing setup activities. In the Formula One pit stops, there are various setup activities involving, such as changing tires, adjusting the wing angles, and refueling. By categorizing these activities as internal activities that can only be performed while the car is in standstill, and externally activities that can be performed while the car is moving. The team can identify the areas for improvement, or in particular how to prepare and minimize the time of the car being in standstill. We would be taking a look at standardization. The team can create standardized procedures for each setup activity. For example, you can have predetermined settings for the wing angles or standardized setups for changing tires. Standardization reduces various problems, errors, time required for a stop, and many more. Parallelization: some setup activities can be performed in parallel with others. For instance, while one team member is changing tires, another can be adjusting the front wing. These parallel reduce downtime and speed up pit stop, doing perhaps if possible all activities at once. Elimination of adjustments. Teams can work to make setup changes more precise and eliminate the need for adjustments during the race. This might involve using more accurate measurements, tools, or engineering components that require fewer adjustments. Setup reduction teams. Formula One teams already have specialized pit crews, but they can form cross-functional teams to continuously analyze and improve setup processes. Engineers, mechanics, and data analysts can collaborate to identify ways to further streamline pit stops. And you should definitely focus on continuous improvement to any systems that you might have that cutting edge perhaps thinking. SMED is an ongoing process. Formula One teams should continuously assess and refine their pit stops processes to achieve the fastest possible turnover time. Uh, Overall, by applying SMED principles for Formula One pit stops and setup changes, teams can aim to reduce the time it takes to make critical adjustments during the race, potentially giving their drivers a competitive advantage and improving their overall race performance. There were a lot of smart people who had came up with this system of how to optimize and reduce time wasted when it comes to pit stops as well. It can be some of these principles can be used for your own business, especially once your company starts growing. If you're interested to find out more, if you like to work together, feel free to reach out to me. Other than that, thanks for watching and see you next one.